Well, welcome guys. Welcome to the Black View. This is episode 1, I Am Educated. For starters, I am Breanna Wright. I am a MAcc student, class of 2021. So why don't you guys tell me about yourself?
I'm Odom. I am an MBA student, class of 2022.
Right. And I'm Kelvin Boateng. I'm a Master's of Marketing student in the class of 2021.
Okay, where did you guys go to undergrad?
I went here, so I went to Vanderbilt.
I also went here.
And I went to Tuskegee University. So episode 1 is called I Am Educated. So all the questions are going to be geared to education, what that means to you, to your family, and to your community. For question 1, growing up, what did education mean to you and your family? Do you think they put a lot of pressure on you? Was it like a big thing, small thing?
Yeah, I think growing up, education was huge for my family. They made a lot of sacrifices and made sure that I could stay as ahead of the curve as I could, all the way from elementary school to high school. And so I think I'm very thankful for that, and I think it definitely played a hand in why I'm here today.
Yeah, literally the same. My parents immigrated from Ghana.
Oh, wow.
For that purpose, to give their kids a shot at living what we know as the American dream through the educational institutions that are here that aren't necessarily available elsewhere. So yeah, it was hugely important, and that was something that you heard every day, So yeah, I mean, crazy important. Like
I
probably the
get
most
that.
important.
I know for me personally, like education was a big thing. My parents were the first to go to college, and they always tell me like they always wanted to be the next step up. So for my parents, from them going to college for the first time, they were a leg up from their parents. Because my grandparents only had, I think, like a high school education. And so for me, I had to be the next leg up. So not only did I go to undergrad at Tuskegee, but I also went to grad school at Vanderbilt. And my parents always joke around like, Breanna, I don't really know what your kid's about to do. Because it's like, are they going to get like a PhD or something? So that's like what I like think about. Is just like, okay, well, how can I do like a leg up for my next generation?
100%.
So would you say like your parents expected you guys to go to grad school?
Yeah, I mean, my grandparents didn't go to school, so they didn't have any formal education. My parents completed secondary school, and similar story, like you got to kind of do the next thing, right? But it was always expected that you're going to go to college, and then my parents themselves stayed in school, right? And so even as they put their kids through school, they stayed in school, and my mom's got her bachelor's, my dad has got his master's and is going after his PhD. And so I don't even know if I'm going to be able to top that, right? But the expectation was that you were going to get yourself educated, whether you did it straight through or you kind of figured out what you wanted to do along the way. But it was always expected.
Yeah, I think for me it's a little bit different because I went and played professional basketball after I left here.
Oh,
and so
wow.
grad school was never really on my radar initially, at least, just being a young man thinking that I was kind of immortal and could play basketball forever. So I don't think it was something that was expected of me. But one thing I will say is I think in me doing it, like you said, kind of moving the ball forward. My sister's now just graduated and already looking at MBA programs. So it feels good to, kind of set that standard and then all kind of follow that standard and move in that direction.
That's good. I know, like, growing up, I didn't want to go to grad school. I wanted to finish college, graduate out here. But then I remember at one of my internships, one of my mentors, she was like, Breanna, when you go to, like, the workforce and for God forbid there's a layoff, what are they going to do? They're going to lay off the people who don't have that higher education, unfortunately. They're going to lay off the people who are like, oh, you don't have your CPA, you don't have your whatever credential, you don't have your master's. So I didn't want to give anyone a reason not to hire me.
100%.
And so that's like one reason why I wanted to go to grad school. So I started to do my research like my junior and senior year. I'm like, you know what? Even though it's another year of schooling, at the end it's really gonna be paid. It's gonna really be paid off.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, I feel like I was a little bit different. I didn't have kind of that straight path. My path is kind of roundabout into marketing. But graduate school is kind of that next step up. As bachelor's degrees become more common. Right. It's like what can you do to differentiate yourself and kind of establish what that next level is. And so, it made sense to kind of do that, and it pays off long into the future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. And that was a big thing for me too. Just, obviously using it as more of a pivot tool, but like you say, kind of just investing in yourself and kind of expecting those returns in the future was a big part of my motivation.
So hopefully we all will make it out on top.
Exactly.
So on that, before coming to grad school, when you were in the MAcc program, you were in the MBA, did you guys feel like you're going to get like the imposter syndrome? Did you feel like you're going to be like, okay, well maybe I'm like the small fish in the big pond? Like, what did you guys feel like before coming to Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think a big part of the reason I came here is because I went here undergrad, and so I had that confidence and that familiarity, because I was aware of kind of what you say, that that's something that probably comes along with it, especially coming from a completely different industry, right? I'm playing sports all day and going back to school. I've been out of school 6 years. I'm thinking to myself, like, can I still do this? Everyone else, and it's funny after a while. Everyone feels that way, but I'm thinking I'm going to feel that way more so than other people. And so, yeah, I definitely think there's a bit of that, but I think being aware of it and working through it has been really helpful for me.
How do you like overcome it? Like, what did you do to like overcome that feeling?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it's been really important to pay attention to mental health. And so, reaching out to people that I use for mental health resources and different things like that helped me really address it straight on and be really intentional about, okay, I feel this and this may not necessarily be true. Like, what can I do to overcome that so that I can be my best self? 'Cause that's the reason I'm here. And so that's a big part of it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of a different kind of path into coming back to school. So my entire undergrad, I thought to myself, it's going to be two things. I'm going to either be on the path to becoming a professional opera singer, or I was going to go become a lawyer. So to go to business school for grad school was kind of like this weird transition where you're coming into Owen, which is one of these highly ranked business schools at Vanderbilt University, and it's like, can I hang with these kids who've been studying business and who've been kind of have these principles like right there. So I did feel a bit of that, just like, am I going to be able to kind of keep up with, in these statistics classes with the economics principles that these people have already have like kind of this basic education around. But I found like throughout the program and throughout the year so far, just, committing to learning those basic principles and applying them over and over and over in different scenarios, whether it's in class or through outside work or that kind of a thing. You start to slowly kind of overcome that.
I think it's like by nature, like going to a new environment, whether it's like your new job, a new city. Because I know I felt that coming from an HBCU at Tuskegee University. It's a smaller school. Like I think the whole school was like 2,500 kids. And Vanderbilt, I'm not really sure the ratio, but I know it's a huge thing. And I remember day one, I was all pumped. I'm like, I got it. I know accounting. Day one, I said, what is this? And I remember like I'm calling my mom, dad. I'm like, did I go to like choose the right program? But at the end of the day, like it's going to be tough, and like those toughness is going to really build you. It's really going to mold you. My dad always preached to me like, you're gonna go through some stuff now, but in the future you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, you know what, it was worth it. And so I have my friends behind me encouraging me just to remind me that I am here, like I am smart enough. Because sometimes I do doubt myself coming to like a big a university, but I have my friends and I know who I am, and I just like I study, work my butt off. And so like some things that I do is kind of like mental health. I do something that makes just like relax me. I like going hiking. I like going out, going running. So that really really does keep my mental health calm. And yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Question 4. I don't know if I should have said that, but oops. Do you think your undergrad experience has prepared you, whether it's educational, whether it's whatever? Do you think your undergrad experiences, or even like your childhood, has helped you here at Vanderbilt?
Yeah. I think a big part of like transitioning into any new thing is adaptability, right? And I think Vanderbilt forces that on you, right? A lot of kids coming into Vanderbilt are like the valedictorian or salutatorian at their high school, right? And then you come in, you take that first semester Gen Chem, or you take that, your third semester of econ, that weed out class. Maybe you go through the calculus. You see kids who kind of just like eat this stuff up. They're really fast. They do it really well, and you start to doubt yourself. But you at some point you adapt, right? You kind of get used to the fact that you won't be the best at everything. You start to find your niches. You start to find what you really excel at. So I think Vanderbilt's really, really great for that. It also puts you in a community of people just absolutely trying to be the best at what they do, right? And so, people, you know, obviously there's a balance, right? There's work hard, just play hard. So you feel like you get some of that, you know, your college experience, but you don't sacrifice any of that. Just like going for it, you know. Well, there's a community of go-getters. You know, I have like 4 or 5 friends that immediately out of college started nonprofits.
Oh,
People don't
wow.
wait to be asked about what to do or to be told what to do here. They just kind of go for it, and that, I think that prepares you immensely for what comes after.
For sure, for sure. I definitely agree. And I think for me, in high school, I went to a terrific high school in Middlesex, and I think that was harder than anything I ever had to do at Vanderbilt. And so I think just from a, you know, the work standpoint, you know, that prepared me for it. But I also think my time here at Vanderbilt as a student athlete, I tell everyone that that's the hardest job I ever had to do, is balancing those two things. And so, you know, going and playing a game in Alabama, coming back the same night, having a test in the morning, studying econ until, you know, 4 or 5 in the morning. Like, that's really when you kind of find out about yourself and kind of what you're made of. And so
right.
those experiences I'm super thankful for. I think that even in an MBA program or, you know, in any master's program, when I'm going through and struggling, I'm like, well, this is difficult, but I've definitely had tougher times. And so, you know,
Right.
those experiences are super important for me, and they kind of carry me through.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Just like going through like the rough patch, my dad would always say, you know what, Breanna, I had it harder than you, so you better suck it up. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks for the encouragement. But at the end of the day, I really do think even like my high school being on a sports team like that, what I learned like through the teamwork now, like I may not like everyone on the team, but at the end of the day, we're a team. So now when I go when I go to the workforce and I'm on a team, I'm probably not gonna like every single person on my team. But at the end of the day, we have a goal. We're trying to reach a benchmark. We're trying to reach a goal. And then going to an HBCU, I feel like it did help me. It did kind of create a sense of who I was, because I grew up in basically an all-white environment growing up. My high school, my middle school, my summer camp.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of my friends were surprised when I went to an HBCU, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to HBCU. They're like, really? And so I feel like going there, I kind of like had a sense of like who I was. Like I was able to look around to see people like me. And now at Vanderbilt, even though I don't have that same experience, I'm still comfortable with who I am. I'm not really flipping the switch of who I am. So I think that's pretty cool that we all have had the experiences that we're able to kind of bring forth at Vanderbilt University.
100%.
One of the last questions I have for you guys is, do you think that having an education, or if we could just talk about like what an education means to us, like in the Black community, do you think society forces us to get an education? Do you think it's looked upon if we don't get one? So just have like a fluid conversation about that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of contingent on where you are. I think I know where I'm from. A lot of people don't have role models that are super educated, and as a kid, you kind of look up to, you know, what you see around you, right? And so what I saw around me was my uncle, and he played college basketball. He went to college, but played college basketball. And I'm like thinking, okay, I want to go to college to play basketball like him, you know? And so I think it's important for kids to see, you know, people that look like them in spaces other than, you know, sports and other things, in you know, being doctors and being bankers and being whatever it is. I think that's the way for people to kind of learn and move forward. You know, I think most of the time you're going to be what you can see, and so I think it's super important for that reason.
Yeah. So as part of coursework, one recent study we read was that you know, so the researchers essentially took resumes. They took identical resumes and put Black sounding names and white sounding names on the resumes, and they sent them out to different companies to see what happened.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Turns out, as results of that research of the study, that that the resumes with Black names required something like an average of 8 years more experience than the resumes with like white sounding names to get a call back for that interview, right? And where I think education plays into that, right, is I think that as a Black community, as we continue to get educated, as we continue to find ourselves in higher and higher positions in these, you know, larger companies, at these nonprofits, at these educational institutions, right, we create paths for more and more Black students to come up behind us, right? And so, you know, we start to change the direction of that implicit bias We started to create more equitable opportunities just because, you know, I'm sure, you know, how many black teachers have you had, you know, who really understand where you come from? I mean, in elementary school, you know, there was a pretty, there's a pretty denotated divide between like where black students came from and where white students kind of lived in the city. And so for, you know, my entire career at my elementary school, my teachers automatically assumed where I lived, you know? And so when I said I'm walking to school, my teacher was really confused. And, you know, that's when I found out I live down the street, you know what I mean? I live down the street. I don't, you know, that kind of a thing. You know, kind of changing the narrative, right? And giving other, you know, black students a chance. And also, like, I completely agree, right? So I'm really lucky. Both, one, my parents stayed in school and they've continued to better themselves. So that's the first example I see. I talk to people every day that are in the academia that believe in it. But also I have uncles and aunts and that kind of a thing who also believe in it and preach it to my cousins and to that kind of a thing. So just being surrounded in an environment where people are leaning on education to better themselves, and you see them starting businesses, you see them becoming executive vice presidents, you see the life that they're able to build for themselves, you just want to create that for yourself, you want to do even better. And I think as long as we as a black community continue to aspire, persevere, despite, you know, the systems and the things that, you know, do stand as obstacles in many ways, you know, we can do a lot for ourselves too. And I think, you know, this is where it starts, by getting our educations.
I like what you said when you said like you're changing the narrative, and I do think like that's important for us, because like what society sees on media, you know, it's not amazing how they view black people, but I feel like us, or when we're going to get our MBAs or we're going to go get our masters or PhD, whatever, I think it is changing the narrative of how society views black people, how society views us starting our own businesses, of having those mentorships, because like, yeah, growing up, I didn't really see a lot of diverse black people who were not necessarily educated, but just like of high authority. And so I think it's now great that we have a first Vice President Kamala Harris, who they have little kids looking up like, you know what, if she can do it and I could do it. And especially she came from an HBCU, I feel like now jobs are now like, okay, wow. So if we have a vice president who went to an HBCU, maybe this job applicant who went to HBCU has some, has a little more power to its name. And so 100%. Like you said, with the different, with the same resume with the different names, I feel like that definitely comes to play. Yeah, you guys like have any last minute thoughts or anything you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with creating those pathways, right? I think that's probably one of the vital parts about what an education allows you to do, especially as a person of color, and you see people in similar situations that you were in, and kind of lending a hand up to someone who maybe a little bit lost or maybe trying to figure it out the same way that we all have, is one thing that's been super helpful to me in my experience, and having mentors that look like me who kind of guide me and set the bar high for me and what I expect from myself, right? There's things that, you know, people suggest to me that I don't even, you know, they didn't even cross my mind, you know, but then, you know, no, you can do this, you can start this business, you can be this person. I'm that person and I view you that way. I think that's something that I want to do for the people that come after me the same way that people have done it for me. So.
Yeah, we most often do go into like industries or jobs that our parents do or that the people around us, you know, we're all products of our environment in some sense or another. And so I think it's really important that, you know, if we're not content with what our environment is, we go out and we change it. And, you know, we're all lucky to be products of environments where education was really important. And so we're at Vanderbilt's, you know, Owen Graduate School of Management, right? And so, you know, we keep pushing and, you know, we create series like this, right, for other black students to want to come to Vanderbilt. And, you know, that's a beautiful kind of domino effect, right? A network effect where just more and more, you know, black talent is found in big companies, is found at big name schools, that kind of a thing. Just, again, you change the narrative going forward.
And I think that was one of our main goals of creating the Black View, this visual podcast, is when I was researching my grad schools, I would type in black students at whatever university, and oftentimes I may not necessarily see as much as I wanted to, but our goal with this is like once it's out there, other kids from other universities can look at our perspective as a black person at Vanderbilt University or at Owen. And so I think that would be great for just to kind of get the name out there to people who might not have the resources or the knowledge about Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt
100%.
University really does provide a lot of different masters. They have a very top Masters of Finance, Accounting. Their MBA program is amazing for 1 and 2nd year students. And so that was kind of like our goal of creating this Black View podcast.
Definitely. Thank you for having us on it.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you for
Thank you.
joining us.
Appreciate
And
it.
this is episode 1, I Am Educated. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.